All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we will begin with our 23-24 annual budget hearing. So as we take a look at tonight's, give me a second here. There we go. All right, so tonight we will spend 30 minutes going through the 23-24 tax levy and proposed budgets. We'll pause at the end to take public comments. The point of the budget hearing is to hear feedback from the public. At 7:30, we'll move to the annual meeting, and there are 6 resolutions that the electors of the school district will ultimately have the power to approve or not approve, and we'll get to that later on. At 8:15, we will move forward into our school board meeting. So the nature of the budget hearing is that at the end of the budget hearing, any resident or taxpayer of the district has the opportunity to be heard on the proposed budget. And the school board is not compelled to make changes suggested by citizens during the budget hearing, but rather, the intent is to provide for an expression of public opinion, and the school board is free to act at future meetings as it determines the public's interest. The electors at the budget hearing do not have the power to amend the budget as proposed, nor approve or disapprove. So we'll present it, and then we'll look for feedback. The budget is summarized on this page here. So if there's blue budget booklets that you may have grabbed on the way in there, and if you flip to page 13, we have a summary of 11 funds. We keep our funds separate. So for example, our student activity fund is Fund 60, and those are funds raised by students that participate in sports or student clubs. When they raise those funds, they get to keep those funds for whatever they'd like. We don't commingle those with our funds in Fund 50, which is our food service fund. So we use fund accounting, and you can see the receipts and the expenditures associated with our 23-24 proposed budget. We're going to have special attention tonight on funds 10 and 27. The general education fund and the special education fund are the 2 funds responsible for educating our students, which is our primary focus as a school district. By the sheer size of the expenditures in each of those are the most important funds, so we'll give a focus on those, but review each fund. So the budget that we've worked on is that we started back in January developing tonight's budget. At the June 26th board meeting, the school board approved this budget that I'm presenting here. We published that budget in the Waukesha Freeman as dictated by law twice on July 19th and July 26th. And tonight we find ourselves here at the budget hearing. The final budget will ultimately be adopted in October. What we need to do that is to take our official third Friday pupil counts in September. On October 13th, we'll be given our state aid and revenue limit amounts, and then we can adopt our final budget and certify our final tax levy. So I'm going to break up this presentation into 2 parts. How we receive our revenues with a focus on what we get from state government, namely equalization aid, and what we get from our residents, namely property taxes. After we talk about how we receive our revenues, we'll talk about how we spend those revenues with an overview of each fund. School districts are restricted by how much money they can receive through state aid and property taxes. And we've had revenue limit laws since 93-94. When we add the amount of money we get from state aid and property taxpayers, that amount cannot exceed what's known as a revenue limit, and we'll go through the simple math here tonight. This is designed to keep a limit on a school board's tax levying authority. So a school board can't levy any amount they wish. They have restrictions, and that's done to keep property taxes in check. So first off, let's go through step 1. Step 1 is to develop our equalization aid. In the recently completed 22-23 school year, we had $53.6 million in costs that state government will share with us. Ultimately, they reimburse us 1 year later, and we anticipate the reimbursement through equalization aid will equal $27.5 million. When we take a look at that amount on a per pupil basis, we have $11,107 of shared cost per pupil. We're going to break this $11,107 into 3 tiers. The first 1,000 is known as the primary tier. The second, the big blue amount in the middle, the $10,084, is known as the secondary tier, and the $23 up top is known as the tertiary tier. Each tier is reimbursed to us at a different percentage rate, and these rates are ultimately developed based on metrics with our property values in the Mukwonago Area School District on a per student basis. No two school districts are going to have the same 3 percentages, and this is the process of equalizing aid. A district that has a lot of little property wealth to support their schools is going to get much larger positive percentages, whereas a school district that has a lot of property wealth and not a lot of students is going to get much less percentages and smaller aid amounts. As we go through our math, the first $1,000, we get 49% back 1 year later. We multiply that by our 4,833 students, and at the primary level, we get $2.3 million in aid. At the secondary level, of the $10,084 beyond $1,000, we get 52% of those costs reimbursed 1 year later, which leads to $25.1 million. At the tertiary level, we have just $23 of tertiary spending, and we get reimbursed a minus 14%. That is our property value per student is 14% higher than the state average. Because we have greater property wealth on average compared to statewide totals, we are negatively aided at the tertiary level. That leads to minus $15,000 in aid. We strategically spent so that we would not go into the tertiary too far, while we would maximize everything at the secondary level. Ultimately, we are looking at equalization aid totaling $27.5 million. So again, to recap, $53.6 million in shared costs last year leads to $27.5 million equalization aid from the state in the current school year. The state adds on 2 other small forms of aid, and when we add those in, total state aid totals $27.6 million. So we have state aid now estimated and calculated. So now we'll figure out how much our revenue limit ultimately is, how much money does the school district have to work with in 23-24, and once we determine step 2, we can back into our property tax amount. Our revenue limit is defined as our 3-year average of full-time equivalent students times our MASD per pupil revenue limit amount plus or minus adjustments. When revenue limits were created in 93-94, they were ultimately married to what we did the prior school year. So over 31 years ago, Mukwonago was a low-spending school district. For the next 3 decades, we remained as one of the lowest funded school districts in the state, and certainly the county on a per-student basis. Recent legislation here with the 23-25 Biennial Budget Act raised the low revenue limit ceiling, which ultimately said any school district under 11,000 can move their per member revenue limit up to 11,000, which benefits students in district like ours a lot. So as we go through our revenue limit math, for this purpose, we have 4,672 resident students in our 3-year average, multiplied by 11,000 each, which leads to $51.3 million. We add on $350,000, which came to us from our voters in the April 2016 referendum question to pay for additional square footage and utility costs associated with the expansion at Mukwonago High School. And then we add another $1.1 million into our revenue limit to pay for students that live in our district boundaries and attend private voucher schools. Our revenue limit is $52.8 million. So when we do our math there, we can now back in to our property tax revenue, which totals $25.2 million. 52% of this amount comes from the state, 48% comes from our taxpayers. I'll walk through the impact of state legislation from the 23-25 budget. So as we were given more money to support our students, the question ultimately becomes, where does that money come from? From our taxpayers or from the state? And I'll demonstrate now. So we know that our state aid is 27.6 in both scenarios. The revenue limit, if we were receiving $10,016 per student, our revenue limit would be just $48.2 million. All right, which would mean, therefore, that our property taxes would be $20.6 million. When our revenue limit was increased to $11,000, state aid stayed the same. Our revenue limit at $11,000 went up to $52.8. Therefore, it put the pressure on property taxes. Now, in the coming slides, I will demonstrate that despite the operating tax increase we see here, the overall tax levy is going to decrease. So when your tax bill shows up in December, you will see that it decreased from current levels. So as the revenue limit went up 4.6 million, so did property taxes. So to answer the question, we got extra money. Where did it come from? It'll be coming not from the state. The school board has the authority then to ultimately take that property tax revenue and to place it into one of three funds, which with the default fund being Fund 10, okay? The school board can proactively set money aside into Fund 41, so of that 25.259 million, they could put money into Fund 38 or Fund 41, and I'll talk about those more in the coming slides. What we're proposing to the public tonight is to take $800,000 of that $11,000 per pupil that we're receiving and to proactively set that aside for future building capital needs. We have annual ongoing maintenance costs, and I'll cover what those are shortly. The remaining funds would go into Fund 10 to operate our general operating fund. That tax levy is governed and restricted by a revenue limit. The school board cannot levy more than those two values added up. In addition to those, we have a referendum debt levy and a community service levy. The referendum debt levy is governed by district residents. They gave the school board permission to levy a tax onto them to ultimately pay back $49.5 million of work that was done between 2016 and 2018. So that is ultimately given, authority is given to the school board by the voters. Fund 80 is the community service fund. We use that primarily to pay for our 2 school resource officers. That is governed by the school board. They have unilateral authority to issue that tax levy so long as they report to the community what they spend that money on at the annual meeting, which we'll do in a few moments. The total tax levy is $30.9 million, and this represents a 0.2% decrease from last year, and the mill rate will total $6.20. That means for every $1,000 of a household's value, of property value, there will be a $6.20 impact to operate K-12 schools. As we compare the two tax levies from one scenario to the next, so where we were to where we're going, okay, we have those 5 tax levies all together, all right, and as we see in Fund 10, as our per pupil revenue limit went up from 10,016 to 11,000, that put pressure on the Fund 10 tax levy. To offset that, we have the ability to drop our referendum debt levy accordingly such that both tax levies equal. The school board has proactively planned to be able to use the referendum debt levy to drop that when needed to offset any growth in the other taxes, leaving our taxpayers with a smaller bill from last year. We have a long-term tax levy that is on the screen right now. Somewhere between the 27 years, this will actually drop to 0. So we are on path to pay off our debts extremely early. I shouldn't say it's going to drop to 0, but it's going to drop significantly once our referendum debt is paid off. But this is our current long-term strategy. We are in the 4th year of this strategy. Last year, our mill rate, so again, talking about the intensity, how much does it cost a household to pay for schools? You can see that Mukwonago has one of the lowest mill rates in Waukesha County at $6.53. Prior to last year, and for 30 years prior, we were the lowest. Looking at all 39 K-12 school districts in southeastern Wisconsin, we are ranked 32nd out of 39 in terms of mill rate. This budget has a mill rate of $6.20. If we did not do the referendum in 2016, our mill rate on this screen would be $4.50, which is 25% less than the lowest value of Palmyra Eagle. I like to believe that as a school district, we operate with great fiscal integrity and responsibility, and we deliver great value for the tax dollars we are given. We will aim to continue to do that indefinitely. If we take a look back at our historical mill rates, $6.20 mill rate coming up for the upcoming school year will be the lowest in our district's history. So that defines how we raise the majority of our revenues. I'm going to move into the specific budget now. Again, going back to page 13, if you have a blue budget booklet, you can take a look at this page here. This is outlining the receipts or the anticipated revenues and expenses in each of the 11 funds. I have 3 that have black boxes drawn around them, and I'm going to highlight those very quickly. Fund 21 is our donation fund. We often receive donations from generous people in the community or outside the community at times, and those donations typically come in restricted, saying, here's some money, we are going to dedicate it towards this certain project or initiative, which we always honor. We are estimating those revenues and expenses to equal $125,000, so the money that's donated will be spent accordingly, and the fund balance position is left unchanged. Our student activity accounts, as I stated earlier, are funds that are fundraised by our various student groups, mostly at the middle school and high school level, and when they raise those funds, they get to keep those funds for whatever it is that they're involved with within our school district operations. Our scholarship trust fund likewise comes through some generous donations, and we anticipate, typically we have 20,000 of donations in a year, and then 20,000 of scholarships that are awarded, leaving the fund balance position unchanged in Fund 72. That leaves us with 8 more funds that I'll walk through here in the coming minutes. So as we take a look at Fund 10, and we look at the top 7 revenues we receive, which are on the screen, we just spent considerable time talking about state aid or equalization aid and property taxes. Those are far and away the lifeblood of the school district's financial abilities to operate. Beyond that, open enroll in tuition for students who live in other school district boundaries but attend our schools generates $5.3 million for our district. Additionally, we get $742 per pupil from state government. Every school district gets that same amount throughout, which generates another $3.4 million. Those 7 revenues you see on the screen represents 97% of our money in our general fund. How are we going, excuse me, I'm ahead of myself there, I apologize. As we look at a pie chart there, you can see that of all the funds we get, 51% comes from the state, the gray area, 38% comes from residents, mostly through tax dollars. Open enrolled revenue generates 8% of our operating revenue. We get 3% from the federal government and $180,000 from other sources. As we take a look as to what we are going to expend these dollars on, I'm proud to say that our budget is balanced. Revenues and expenses are equal, and this includes a transfer of $3 million to Fund 46. That money will ultimately be set aside to pay for future capital projects for existing buildings within our operating budget. So we are going to, at the end of the 23-24 school year, plan on transferring an amount which will ultimately take care of our existing buildings and whatever needs they might have. Other communities at times will ask for a referendum to fix their buildings, and I'm proud to say our school board has a commitment to pay for the existing buildings we have as they have certain needs like roofs, parking lots, etc. 71% of our budget is dedicated to salaries and benefits, which is within the recommended range of spending 70 to 75% of the operating budget on salaries and benefits. Anything lighter than that is probably not much of an investment. Over 75% might be a little bit too much. So we're right in that range. This budget is also built with a 4% increase for returning employees, and based on our health insurance plan design changes that we've gone a 0% increase. Again, taking a look at a pie chart for how we are expending our operating budgets in Funds 10 and 27. Bear with me as that comes back. You can see 51% is spent on salaries, 20% on benefits. Purchase services represents 18%. That ultimately represents a number of things. I'll highlight a few. We spent $3.1 million each year on transportation for yellow school bus services. For students that open enroll out of our district to other public school districts, we pay $3 million for those students. I mentioned earlier the $1.1 million we give to private voucher schools for students that attend those schools. And ultimately, you can see the distribution of how we plan to expend our dollars. We have the $3 million in the lower right-hand corner of being transferred to Fund 46, again, to ultimately set those dollars aside to pay for building needs. Fund 27 is summarized on page 18 of your blue books. We have expenditures totaling $11 million. Our special education program only generates about $4 million of revenue on its own, so Fund 10 has to transfer any amount remaining to help make sure that Fund 27 breaks even. So between federal aid and state aid, Every school district doesn't get enough money to cover their special education costs, so you must take money out of your general operating budget to pay for all those additional special education services. Ultimately, we are increasing our special education investment by $700,000 over what we spent last year. Fund 39 is the fund that ultimately houses and pays for debts associated with a referendum. The upcoming 23-24 snapshot is on page 19, and then I have a debt timeline on page 29, which I'll show on the upcoming screen. We have debts totaling $3.1 million and a tax levy totaling $5.5 million. The difference, which we call the over levy or the additional levy, along with the existing fund balance, can prepay approximately 3 years of debt this coming spring. Our previous prepayments and refinancing efforts have eliminated $2.6 million in costs that would otherwise have gone to our taxpayers. So here's a snapshot of our debt year by year. I realize this font is a little small and I apologize for that. But as we move through 23-24, we will have the opportunity to pay off the current year and then to go to the bottom of the pay schedule and knock out 1, 2, 3 years, saving hundreds of thousands, if not close to millions of dollars of future interest costs. If we were to repeat this for the next several years, we will have the opportunity to pay this debt off between 2026 and 2027, ultimately settling our debt timeline up to 10 years early. I think generally speaking, in a school district situation or somebody's personal situation, anytime you can pay off debts early, that's a good thing. Fund 41 is when we receive our money at the beginning of the year, the school board will have the opportunity to proactively set some of that money aside for building needs. So we are going to take, of that $11,000 per student, set aside $800,000. We have $650,000 known expenses. We approved a budget with the school board this past March, which gives our buildings and grounds crew the opportunity to make plans and secure contractors to do work throughout the summer months. The $650,000 represents annual ongoing maintenance needs. Big projects such as new roofs or new parking lots will be paid for by Fund 46. So all the funds in the 40s speak to dollars that are being set aside for building needs. We have a beginning fund balance in Fund 41 of $3.2 million and an ending fund balance of $3.4. Fund 46 is our capital improvement funds. Last meeting 1 week ago, we looked at our operating budget from 22-23 and we set more money aside so we are setting ourselves up for success in the future regarding our existing buildings. We have revenues totaling just over $3 million and expenditures totaling $4.8. We know we need a new roof at Clarendon, a section of a new roof at Mukwonago High School. So we have 4 major projects that we have identified at this time. The beginning fund balance is $7.5 million and will end at $5.8. If you compare our school district to other school districts and how much money they have set aside for future building needs, they would gladly trade places with us. So for the limited amount of money we got for 30 years, we were still able to be fiscally strong and determined to do the right thing each and every year. Food service is Fund 50. We are designing by intention, by mandate more or less, to decrease our fund balance by $440,000. The United States Department of Agriculture, as members of the National School Lunch Program, said we have too much fund balance there. So we have to work that down to 3 months of operating expenses. So we've identified one-time projects to replace certain pieces of equipment in our 8 school kitchens and our central kitchen at the high school. And we have also kept our lunch prices constant for about 4 to 5 years now. So we're ultimately able to take the relief, share this relief with our families in the district by keeping lunch prices the same. 2 more funds. We have Fund 73, which is an employee trust fund. As a part of our compensation package, we provide our employees with a post-employment benefit. Our funded status for future liabilities that will come due down the road, we are over 90% funded. You can see our contributions in the past on the screen. We have $614,000 budgeted to contribute towards this. We are currently doing another actuarial study at the moment. And at over 90% funded status, again, other school districts pay that bill as it comes due. We have pre-funded our future liabilities, and I know other school districts would gladly trade places to be where we are. Lastly, we have the Community Service Fund, which is a $150,000 tax levy, which ultimately pays for 2 school resource officers at the middle school and the high school, and a small community education program. So that is the budget hearing. I know I covered quite a bit. This is your time to share your feedback if you have any. I welcome anything that you might have, both good and bad.
Did you pick out that tie or did it Andrea? 'Cause
Andrea.
It's nice. Nice job.
She's watching at home, so she'll appreciate the comments there. Craig? All right, well, we can just hang tight. If anybody has anything to say between now and 7:30, feel free to say it. If not, we'll start the annual meeting at 7:30. Wow, it's really quiet in here now.
Do we need more chairs? Are we good back there? Are we good? Good? What's that?
I said, we'll let Tom know.
Tom, know what?
Eric was trying to get in.
I'll go sign it.
To order, this is our annual school district meeting. It is Monday, July 31st, 7:31 p.m. This is the annual meeting of the Mukwonago Area School District, Washoe County of the state of Wisconsin. The formal budget hearing is part of the annual meeting as required by the state of Wisconsin Statute 65.90. The annual meeting was announced in our official school district area newspaper, the Waukesha Freeman.
Meeting.
Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, welcome everybody. Just want to reiterate that in order to vote, you need to register, and there are certain qualifications that you need to meet. You must be a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age or older, a resident of the district for at least 28 days before any election, Section 6.02 Wisconsin statutes. If a person is challenged as to his qualifications to vote, the chairperson shall state the above qualifications necessary to vote to the challenged person. If such challenged person declares he is eligible to vote and the challenge is not withdrawn, the chairperson shall administer the following oath or affirmation to the challenged person. You do solemnly swear or affirm that you are an actual resident of the school district and you are qualified according to the law to vote in this matter. A person taking such oath or affirmation shall be permitted to vote, but if he refuses to take such an oath or affirmation, he may not vote. Cherry is present here to clerk this meeting.
I am present.
All right. Okay, moving on to, we need to elect a permanent chairperson. Jake?
I'd like to nominate Carolyn Simon.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? One more time, any other nominations? All in favor of Carolyn Simon to chair this meeting, please raise your hand. Cherry, you want to take a vote?
This is everybody.
You guys, this is the annual meeting, everyone gets a say here. So feel free to raise your hand or not raise your hand.
All right.
You take the count? Did you take the
So,
count?
no, can we do that one more time, and I'll take counts here. if you guys don't mind.
I gladly do it, but you usually do it.
I'll start up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 for Carolyn.
All right. Carolyn, you are the chair of this meeting.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. So we're going to have, Cherry will be conducting balloting. If there's going to be 2 or more nominations, there was not, so we can move on to that. Let's see. Minutes of the 2022 annual meeting are going to be on pages 7 through 9. All electors, you guys should have those in your blue booklets. There's no action that we're going to be taking on those minutes. We're going to go through all the reports. We're going to start with the treasurer's report. That goes to Jake.
All right, thank you. The accounting firm of Hawkins Ash CPAs LLP, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, is in the process of auditing the general purpose financial statements of the Mukwonago Area School District as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2023, including its various funds and account groups. Any adjustments required by the auditors for the purpose of forming an opinion on the general purpose financial statements taken as a whole have been or will be discussed with the district and, if necessary, recorded in the district's accounting records. The audit is scheduled to be completed in September. A summary of the district's unaudited receipts and expenditures are presented in the proposed 2023-2024 budget included in this document. The accounts are presented in an outline form. Additional details regarding the district's budgeted receipts and expenditures are available from the Director of Business Services. In addition, copies of the audit report will be on file in the school district office and may be examined by any elector of the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. We're going to move on to our superintendent's report. So, Joe.
Thank you. The Mukwonago Area School District continues to operate in a highly effective manner, attaining high academic achievements, providing excellent programs for our students while maintaining fiscal responsibility to our communities. All schools in the district meet or exceed expectations on the Department of Public Instruction school report cards, with all elementary schools significantly exceeding expectations. Students at our high school continue to excel in the classroom, in our career and technical education programs, in the performing arts, and in athletics. Our comprehensive programming meets the current needs of our students while preparing them for their future endeavors. The district is in the second phase of our facility study that began in 2014. In 2018, the district completed renovations to the high school, and in step with this three-phase facility study, has begun to develop plans for the community to review and weigh in on. The second phase of the study places a heavy emphasis on the middle school level and involves building a new middle school that includes moving our sixth grade students to the middle school. Additionally, the district is looking to enhance four-year-old kindergarten spaces in the elementary buildings, as well as enhance technical education spaces at the high school and build a multi-purpose indoor facility at the high school. The community will have the opportunity to respond to a community survey at the end of September or early October to provide the district with feedback on our conceptual plans. In addition to our school performance and facilities discussion, the Mukwonago Area School District strives to meet the needs of our community. Through our career and technical education programs, we're developing the next generations of workers and leaders for our community. We're maintaining the strong values of our community in our day-to-day operations as a district, and will continue to do so into the future. I respectfully submit this as our report.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to move on to our board president's report. Dale.
I just want to thank Sean McNulty again for pushing the board to start the search for our new superintendent about a year before he was going to retire. That really put the school district in a great position. We found Joe, and it's been nothing but great, smooth transition. I get a lot of compliments from the community and from staff members of how well this transition is going and the new leadership role. Some of the things I really love about Joe is he's all about growth for everybody, not only students, but employees, staff, and even the board. He loves to empower people, and his communication is second to none. He communicates everything. He's very open, and his communication is always a two-way street. And just to let everybody know, if you haven't met him, please reach out to him, and he's a great guy, and his staff is just wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent. We have Post-Retirement Trust Fund 73 report, and Tom, are you going to take that one?
Yep, I got that one. So if you have a blue budget booklet, you can turn to pages 40 and 41. When a school district establishes a trust fund to the benefit of its employees, it's important that that trust fund is monitored. So I will report on the status. We have two buckets within Fund 73. So if you look at page 40, you can see that we started with a fund balance of $5.5 million. And as of June 30th, about a month ago, we had $5.282 million. So you can see the revenues that came in and the expenditures that came out. The rate of return started at 1% and climbed to 5.19%. So we are in a great spot, as I said earlier, within Fund 73. Our future liabilities are pre-funded ahead of time before they come due. If you turn the page to Fund 41, we offer a $500 403B match to our employees. And we set those funds aside in a separate account, and you can see they started at $661,000 and are now at $684,000. So if anybody has further questions about that, you're welcome to come by the district office, and I'll provide any information you need or answers you're looking for. That's our report.
Thank you. Next is the Community Service Fund 80 report, and that is also Tom.
Sure, yep, I got that one too then. So when we levy a Fund 80 tax levy, it's our duty to tell the school district and its residents what we use that money on. So if you turn to page 26 and you look at the column titled 2022-2023 unaudited, those are the values we have of today. Our audit will begin next week with our auditors, and that will be completed sometime in November. It's an annual step we always go through. We spent $120,995 for purchase services, primarily for the services of the Mukwonago Police Department and our 2 school resource officers. The remaining expenses went towards our community education program as it continues to grow as it has in the last 3 years. Some school districts have a much more extensive Fund 80 where they'll have a park and rec program, or perhaps some have ice rinks or whatever they might have, whatever fits the community's values, but ours is rather simple and small, so that's what we have spent our community service tax levy dollars on. That's the report.
Thank you, Tom. For action items, we have setting of the district levy, discussion. Can you pull that up here so they
Yep,
can also see
absolutely.
that? Thank you. So we have a discussion of the status of the budget planning, and budget will be held in an event. A call for adoption of the levy is made. The following motions would be in order. So resolution levying a tax for the district capital expansion fund. And then we have resolution authorizing operational debt services and community service tax levy. Are we?
Carolyn, can I
Yep.
just explain that a little bit?
Go ahead.
So at the annual meeting that we're in right now, this is people who live here, taxpayers and electors, have the chance to say yay or nay. We support your budget and tax levy, or we don't. So this is a chance for everybody to give us your opinion on how you feel about things. The first resolution is giving the school board permission to take of that $11,000 per pupil we get to set some of that money aside at the beginning of the year for known expenses with maintaining our buildings as they are. So we're looking for a resolution to ultimately have $800,000 set aside within the upcoming budget for the capital expansion fund. The second resolution then is for all the other tax levies, the operating tax levy, the referendum tax levy, and the community service tax levy. Not sure why we do those separate. That's state law written probably a long time before I was born, but that's what we're looking for from the electors tonight. Would anybody like to make a resolution or make a motion to approve the resolution, rather? All right. What's your name?
Thanks, Dave.
So we can do this by a vote by show of hands or written down.
We need a second.
Oh, okay.
too. Does anybody else like to second that?
I'll second.
All right. If you want to call show of hands there.
All right, let's do a vote by show of hands. And this is for the resolution of levying tax for the district's capital expansion fund.
Democracy in action. Here we go. Let's see some hands. If you want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
What's a quorum? We have to have,
2/3 majority.
and what's the attendance? What is the attendance?
Laura, how many folks do we have here tonight? Can you count those blue slips? How many people are here to vote tonight? And I actually want to include my hand on that. I support my own budget. That's 23 votes for.
100%?
Take my vote back.
105%?
All right,
Tom's math.
call it 22-0. All right, let's keep it moving.
All right. So the next vote by show of hands is resolution authorizing operational debt service and community service tax levy. By show of hands. Oh, do we have to make a motion for that one as well?
Yeah, yeah,
Separate
yeah,
motion.
we do. Does anyone want to make that?
Make that motion.
Cherry, you got that?
Second,
Who's got the second?
Crosby.
Crosby, all right. Okay, maybe now we can show of hands here, I think. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. All right,
29.
we'll round up. 22, 4. So I'd say that clearly passes.
Excellent. Tax levy information, it says the school board on or before November 1st has the duty to vote a tax sufficient to operate and maintain the school district if the annual meeting fails to do so. Further, if the annual meeting votes a tax that violates statutory revenue limits, the school board must lower the tax to bring it into compliance with revenue limits. Next up is board salaries. It is up to the citizens voting in the annual meeting to determine what the board salaries will be for the 2023-2024 school year. Currently, board salaries are $3,500, with the board president receiving an additional $1,000. This was established in the 2021 year. We need a motion in order to set the board's salaries for the 2023-2024 school year.
I'd like to make a motion, we keep the same salary.
I don't think we can do that.
Oh, I can't do that?
I
Oh,
don't, we can?
Yep,
Okay.
again, you're in a
All right.
unless the public wants to bump that. Anybody want to jump that up a little bit? Do I hear 5? Anyone?
Come on, administrators.
Sorry, board members, I probably messed this whole up.
No, you didn't, you didn't.
We need
I
a
say
second.
regardless of whatever amount of money you get in this community or any school district, it works out to about 15 cents an hour when you do the job right. It doesn't add up, it's not a lot for the time you put in, so with whatever it is, I do appreciate as a resident of this district who sends his kids to these schools, so just would like to say that.
Will you second it?
No, I did not.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So we're going to do a vote by hand to approve board salaries for the 2023-2024 school year, that they remain the same.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. All right, that one passes. Salaries are remaining the same.
All right. Moving into unfinished business. I don't think we have any
So
unfinished.
at
Is
a-
this, do I still roll here, or is this?
Yeah, you do. You still have it.
Okay.
So if any elector had something they wanted to talk about, they could write that in writing to the clerk, and then the chairperson could decide if you want to talk about it.
Okay.
Anyone? All right. There's no other unfinished business.
All right. New business, resolution to authorize sale of tangible property. Be it resolved that the school board of Mukwonago Area School District is hereby authorized during the current school year to sell and dispose of any tangible personal property belonging to the school district that is determined by the school board to no longer be needed for school purposes.
So we need permission from the electors if we have some furniture or equipment that we determine we no longer need. We don't have the right to sell that at an auction or at a surplus auction unless you give us permission. So in the past, we have got permission, so we're just looking for permission to do this tonight.
Could you share how much we made?
Jerry, let's take a look at, give me a second here. At times, some years are light and some years are more. Just give me a second to see if I can.
It was just on there, I thought the people.
So if you take a look at page 14, a revenue source 264. It doesn't read fully, but it should say resale from auction items. We generated $13,000 this past year.
How much?
$13,000.
That's not this summer's one, was that the one?
If it took place after July 1st, then it'd be a part of this coming year's budget.
That was the
So-
number I was looking for.
'Kay.
It was quite a bit more than that. I make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote by hand.
I'd say
it's
22. I'd
22.
say 22 would be good. Mm.
All right.
All right, we need a resolution to authorize the school board to set a date and time for the 2024 annual meeting. So let it be resolved that the school board of the Mukwonago Area School District is granted the authority of the electorate to establish a date and time for the 2024 annual meeting. And we usually set this,
So by
Relatively
default,
soon,
state law states that the annual meeting has to take place on the third Monday of July at 8 p.m.
Okay.
If the electors say it's okay for school board, you can choose a date and time that maybe works better. Sometimes September works better. Sometimes August works better. Maybe they'll give you permission to do that. Maybe you give yourselves permission to do that since you're electors and you can vote.
I'd like to make a motion to pass to authorize the school board to set the date and time for the annual meeting.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to allow the school board to set the date and time for the annual meeting for 2024. Let's do a vote by hand.
22.
Thank you.
It passes. All right. We have one more.
All right, last is our resolution to authorize the school board to purchase student accident insurance. Let it be resolved that the school board of the Mukwonago Area School District is granted the authority of the electorate to purchase student accident insurance for the 2023-2024 school year.
Carolyn, can I comment on this just a little bit? So some students in our district have a personal situation where they perhaps don't have health insurance in their lives. So if they get hurt on the playground or doing maybe gym class, if they're at school and it's a normal thing that they're doing and they get hurt, this insurance would help kids who with their medical bills if they don't have health insurance. The school district, by state law, can't buy this unless the electors give permission. This cost for the 23-24 school year is $11,550 to provide insurance to all students should they need it.
I make that motion.
Second.
Who had that second there?
Jake. A motion and a second. Let's take vote by hand.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. All right.
All right.
Yeah, I got you. We're good.
All right. And we need to adjourn from our meeting.
Ooh, I'll make that motion. We're out of this
Second.
one.
We have a motion and a second, and everyone say aye.
Aye.
All right. Nice work, everybody.
That was awesome.
Nice job there, electors. Way to go. All right.
Now,
So we'll start school board meeting at 8:15, correct then?
Monday, July 31st at 8:15 p.m. This is our monthly meeting, full board. Sherry, would you like to do roll call, please?
Carlsy Buckingham. Here. Erica Connor.
Can you speak in the
Here.
mic?
Jake.
Here.
Gail. Here. Dale. Oh,
Here.
sorry. Vito. Here. Carolyn.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Jerry here.
This is an open meeting and has been posted. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, we're going to move on to citizens' comments. Are there any?
Nope.
No citizens' comments. We're going to move on to presentations and Eagleville Green Ribbon Award.
This is on, right? Okay, why don't we stand in front of the
Congratulations.
Hello, for those of you guys who don't know me, I think I know most of you up here. I'm Colleen Hoy, and I'm the principal at Eagleville and the 4K coordinator for the district. We are super excited to be here tonight just to share a little bit more about what a U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School is, and also take the opportunity to share with you guys some of the things that Eagleville does on a daily basis and on a yearly basis to have earned that award. I do want to take a moment. We have a lot of staff and excited crowd members, and I just want to take a moment to thank them. The work that you're going to hear about from these lovely ladies in a few minutes really is a group effort, a community effort, a team effort. And so we do have some staff members that I'm just going to have wave. Lisa Butita is a paraprofessional at Eagleville. She's also the composting queen. So if you have composting questions, want to know how it's managed, anything about it, that is Lisa's wheelhouse. Allison Boyd, who's a first and second grade teacher at Eagleville. Stephanie Stibe teaches second and third grade. John Stibe teaches 5th and 6th grade. We also have some awesome parents here and PTO members. So if you're a PTO board member, you can raise your hand, some awesome supporters. I should note this award is also many years in the making. And as you guys know, there's been lots of principals that work in Mukwonago who spent time at Eagleville and did this work. So Val Voss back there should also get a big shout out because this work started many, many years ago and has been continued from them. So it really is a community effort, and as they talk about the things that are happening, it is really because of the parent support, the staff support, and the amazing things that kids are doing every day. So a little bit about the Green Ribbon Award. Tom, can you click for me? U.S. Department of Green Ribbon Award are given out every year on an annual basis. This year, 26 schools across the nation were honored. So we were one of 26 schools in the whole entire country to receive this award. I do think a little bit deeper description also made it into your packets. Joe, do you know, was there sheets in their packets? Or no? The slides, okay.
With the presentation in the back.
Perfect. So a little bit about it is this award is recognized for schools that are taking steps and innovative approaches to reduce environmental impact, improve health and wellness for students, staff, and the community, and then to educate and improve environmental education literacy. And so today the students are going to talk about each of those pillars and what that looks like to live on a daily basis at Eagleville and some of those things we do. So Tom, you can probably go ahead and skip ahead 2 slides actually. These are just the 3 pillars again. We're going to start by talking about reducing environment impacts and cost. And these ladies, I have Callie Cantor, who will be a 5th grader at Eagleville next year, Alana Wright, who will also be a 5th grader, Emmy Godfrey, who just finished 6th grade at Eagleville, so she'll be heading to middle school next year, and Emmy Church, who will be a 4th grader. We're all members of our Student Green team, and they're going to talk a little bit about their favorite things about Eagleville. So you will see on the slides that you have several of the things we do. They have kind of picked and wrote about their 4 favorite on each slide. So you're going to hear a little bit from them. They worked really hard to prepare some of their thoughts about each of these.
My name's Callie Cantor. We started Green Guardian, a club open to everyone that wanted to help out our school. One of the ways we did that was green and healthy snacks. We served things like pickles, bananas, and many more. This helped us with our sugar maple status.
My name is Alana Ray, and I'll be talking about composting. At lunch, everybody sorts their scraps into buckets. Then every day, someone from each grade, 5K through 6th grade, takes the buckets out of our compost, and we compost it properly. This helps us keep items out of our landfill.
Hi, I'm Emmy Gottfried, and I'm going to be talking about the butterfly gardens. At Eagleville, we have butterfly gardens that have many different plants for all types of butterflies. Each year, 4th grade through 6th grade researches plants of certain butterflies. Then we order them and plant them as a part of our science curriculum.
I'm Abby Church. I'm going to be talking about things in the cafeteria. Each day for our hot lunches, we use plastic trays and reusable silverware to make sure nothing goes to the landfill, along with reusable lunch, where we also have had 2 plastic-free lunch days. These were inspired by our One School, One Book, One Plastic Bag, Isatu Sise, and the Recycling Woman of the Gambia, written by Miranda Paul. Students were encouraged to eliminate single-use plastic from their lunches.
The next pillar is really about improving health and wellness for students, staff, and the community. So they're going to talk about different events that we have that inspire people to do that.
Can you hold on one second? If parents want to come up here and take pictures, you can.
They probably will.
Okay.
John will, if nobody else.
John, you can come up here if you want.
John is a resident photographer at Eagle.
The Maker Faire is an event in April where kids make things like soap, cotton candy, or notebooks to sell them to make money. Every classroom made things for the whole class to sell. That money goes to the classroom for things like new books or other classroom items. This year, we even sold syrup tapped by students.
Events in our school forest. We do many events in our school forest inspired by nature and to get active. Some of the events we do are the walkathon, color run, or turkey walk, and many more.
Taco dinner. Every year we host our annual taco dinner, and it's just like it sounds, tacos. But there's more than just delicious food. All of the money raised from the taco dinner was given to our sister school in Guatemala to buy things like water filters and Lucy lights and so much more. These things are very expensive, and they're very grateful for this.
Parent Creek Day. Parent Creek Day is where your parents get to come and learn about the creek. This September will be our 3rd annual Parent Creek Day. Parents get to explore the creek and then have a picnic lunch. The most fun part about Creek Day is seeing all the animals that you catch. Crayfish, larvae, water bugs. If you are lucky, you might even catch a frog.
The final pillar is about increasing environmental literacy, again, for students, staff, and the community.
Growing mushrooms is where we get different varieties of mushrooms for each classroom from Matt's mushrooms. They come from a box that has a big block of dirt with the spores in them. Each class has to spray a little bit of water on their block each day. Sometimes the classroom has trouble. Once they are big and ready to harvest, each class would pick their mushroom and cook them to eat. The mushrooms are really good and smell delicious.
Field trips. We do lots of cool field trips to learn more about the environment. For a whole school field trip last year, we went to Redfield Nature Center and learned lots about different plants and animals, including a planetarium show. 4th, 5th, and 6th graders went to a prairie reserve in Waukesha.
E3 is our environmental summer school focus on nature. Mostly kids from around the district come to experience Eagleville. Every day we had a focus of nature. My dad taught this, and let me say he had so much fun. Texts me every day during his break telling me about all the cool stuff that happened. Students learned about reptiles, the creek, ecosystem, recycling, and so much more.
Sensory garden. Last year, we recently started a sensory garden. It is where each classroom picked a sense: sight, touch, sound, taste, smell, to research. My class had taste. We planted basil in the winter in milk jugs so they would have more time to grow. Then before summer, we planted them in the garden area. This year we will continue to expand the sensory garden.
So a lot of the things you heard about were things that have happened over the last year. So Alana's going to talk to you just about which of those things are recent and new and exciting last year.
Some of the things that were new last year were a new outdoor classroom that was built. We also had goats come this spring. They were the highlight of the year. They were so cute. They are all the invasive species in our school forest. We also were able to donate to Waukesha Country to have a tree planted and to support Red Fair Nature Center.
Some really amazing things upcoming as we move into this school year. We have some super exciting things planned. You can go to the last slide, Tom. As you heard Emmy talk about, we're going to continue to think about expanding our sensory garden and outdoor learning spaces. You heard them talk about the outdoor classroom, which was finished at the very end of last year. So you can be looking for an invitation to our grand opening in September, along with Eagleville's Heritage Day. We're excited to celebrate that and start using that this year. Our Green Guardians team is going to continue to expand and utilize energy audit data that they've been collecting, and then we're looking forward to continuing community partnerships and strengthening those. So some really exciting things to earn this award and some exciting things coming, but really a huge celebration for the students and staff who have put in a ton of work for that. So nice job, ladies. You guys have questions? I told them to be prepared that there may be questions.
I have a question. So how do you make your compost?
We put things like our napkins, food waste, and then we mix them in a big container, and we put leaves in it, and then we stir it all up, and then we just leave it.
Does it ever become hot and generate warmth?
Yes.
Good.
A new winter composter this past year that the PTO purchased so that it's hot enough to compost all winter, and they actually have to like spin it and go out there. It's a two-person task, but they like every day get out there and spin it and mix it so it stays warm enough to actually.
Do you reuse your compost for all the gardens that you have?
That is a goal. So the current compost needs to be created so it's easier to access it. Currently, it's the stuff on the bottom, which is the good compost, is very hard to get to. We have a former student, Charlie Essman, is that his name? Who is actually doing that for his Eagle Scout project. So the goal is that this upcoming year they'll be more usable with like a side hatch door versus right now the ones we have, you have to lift the whole front off and it's not super easily usable. So one of our goals is to use it more frequently in our actual gardening.
Cool.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Yeah. Nice job, guys.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. We are looking for the approval of school board meeting minutes from June 26, 2023, and approval of vouchers and receipts. Anybody opposed to approval of those? Hearing none, consent agenda passes. On to student learning.
Jim Darren was with us to go over Flex Advisory and Wednesday early release and answer any questions. Michelle Ziegler went over the K6 report card revisions. that we're going to put into place for this year. And then Bryn Rohde and Joe presented on the new 50% AODA support staff member. The other 3 items on there are action items, so I'll go over them when we do votes. Any questions on those items?
No questions. All right. Thank you.
Could I just comment then, even if you don't have a question?
Sure.
I wasn't here when we went through the support position for the AODA, and so in case you didn't see at the end of the memo, there is the measurable outcomes piece, and I think that's an important piece that the board has asked for when we put something in place to see like what impact is it having. So I do have those listed below, but if you'd like to have any more additional conversations about that piece of information or how that's going to look, feel free to give me a call, or I can bring it back to the board here as an update. But we do plan on presenting to the board every quarter, so 4 times we'll come back and present that those data.
Yes.
I would love that.
I'm sure you're really excited.
I am. I was ready.
You knew what I was going to ask.
I knew you were going to ask, yes.
No, I do actually appreciate that the measurable outcomes are on there. Are there going to be any sort of measurable part to that? I mean, for example, there's no, like, are we going to reduce the rate by 5%? What are we looking at here that's going to determine if it's a success or a failure?
Sure. So as a team, we're putting together like a dashboard, and so we're kind of talking about which program we'll use for a dashboard. But we would look, obviously, we'd love to see a reduction rate to 0, but not realistic, right? But I think our reduction rate in general, I would love to see our AODA come down by at least 15%, maybe more. But I would like to see a significant decrease in our repeat offenders. So, but remember, that's 1% piece, like the actual person. We also want to look at the participation in groups and some of the curricular pieces that students will be participating in. And that would be all encompassing in that dashboard piece. So,
how does this program address the repeat offenders?
So it'll be scaffolded and tiered. So, so if you think about like the first time somebody would have like a potential offense, they would have maybe a meeting with the principal. They'd have a suspendable, a suspension of some type. The second time, they would have an automatic connection with the AODA support person, and then follow up like continuously. So maybe the first time it's once a week for 4 to 6 weeks. The second time it would be more intense if it happened again. There would be like our high school administration, so we've done that Prime for Life curriculum in the past, which is like this detour program, Your Choice. You guys have heard me talk about that. So we'd like moved, I was just counting it actually, and Stephanie called me up, but we had about 50 some kids participate this year, over like 18 the 2 years combined total before. Our high school administrators, our associate principals, felt like it would have a bigger impact on our students if they taught it themselves. So they went through the training these last couple of months so that they could have a bigger impact on the outcomes. So programs like Prime for Life and the 420 program, which is based on marijuana, for those of you that didn't know what 420 was. But anyway, those have tiered approaches inside also. So we would be able to measure those outcomes.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, awesome.
Moving on to finance and facilities review.
So we are continuing to work towards refining what we're looking to do with our referendum project. This morning we met with 4 of our 6 elementary principals to continue to review what we're looking to do at their schools, to give them a sense of direction as to where we've gone the last couple months, present them with plans as to what we think we'd like to do in their building, but to get their feedback on how as we take final shape on a lot of these ideas, what it needs to look like. So we met today with Val, we met with Andrea Kaplan at Clarendon, Sean Waller from Big Bend. I'm missing one more, Joe. Who else did we meet with? I apologize.
Colleen
at Eagleville, yes, thank you. So we'll meet with Rachel Crockford from section and Ron Schlicht next week, Tuesday, and then we will have made an effort to make sure that principals will get their vision inserted into this project, because typically they will know best as to what their building's going to need. Joe, is there anything else there?
Nope. Again, we just continue to work towards that community survey, and then what is going to be our community information approach that we'll embark on in the fall and then through the winter, leading up to April, if that's what the board chooses to do.
All right, moving on to action items, appointments, resignations, and retirements.
So it looks like there is an appointment. I'm sorry, Michelle, you're not doing
She's
that.
not coming up to
Okay,
present
gotcha.
that, no.
There's an appointment for Meredith Yankee, section elementary special education teacher. There are no resignations or retirements.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Meredith Yankee for the special education position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to Parkview Middle School and Mukwonago High School new course curriculum documents.
Student Learning has 3 action items tonight. The first one is the 6 brand new classes to the middle school and high school, and the 3 revisions that staff members did up for approval for the 23-24 school year.
I motion to approve those.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
Aye.
Sorry, Erica.
Sorry.
All right. Motion carries. Moving on to kindergarten social studies resources.
We're asking for approval for the main resources for kindergarten curriculum to be purchased at $3,875.66.
I make a motion that we approve the kindergarten social studies resources.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, all opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to academic standards for 2023 and 2024.
Every single year in the state of Wisconsin, the board is asked to approve the academic standards for the next school year. So I'm asking for approval for the academic standards for the 2023-24 school year.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the academic standards for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
What happens if we say no?
That's a great question, Vito. Again, if there was a subject area that you did not approve, technically, the district then needs to write their own academic standards, and we would need to pay the money and find the resources to write those standards. Remember, a good time to remind you that even though you approve the standards, we decide which standards are focus standards, which standards go strongly into our curriculum. We still have that say, even though we say yes to the state standards. It's a lot of work for a district to deny the standards and do them on their own, but doable.
Not suggesting it, just curious.
Thanks for that question.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. Thank you. Superintendent report?
Yeah, so I am now 6 weeks here. It has been a wonderful 6 weeks. I just want to take a minute to thank the district office staff. They have been welcoming. They have been excellent guides, mentors. If I'm going right and need to go left, Laura and many others are willing to grab me by the arm and take me in the right direction. I want to thank the staff that I've had an opportunity to meet, work with this summer. They've been very generous with their time, just taking a few minutes to chat. And then our building principals. They've really allowed me insight into what they're doing at their schools, opened their doors. So it's just been a great transition in, and I just want to take a minute to thank everybody.
President's report. I just want to tell the board members, January 17th, 18th, and 19th is the WASB conference, the state convention. And if you can, I know many of you work, but I went there last year for the first time, and it's a lot of education there, and it really helps you grow as a board person and get a lot of understanding what's going on behind the scenes as well. So I highly recommend, if you can, to attend this year's state convention. All right, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session. Executive session, Wisconsin State 19.85, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Human Resource Director search update.
I second.
With motion and second, Chair, you want to roll call?
Crosby?
What is your name, young man? Noah? Thanks, Noah.
Long night for you tonight.
You can sit down. Anywhere.
Hi, Rachel.
Back into open session at 9:14 p.m. We do have an action item on the table. We are looking for approval of Rachel Herman to be the new HR Director of Mukwonago Area School District.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Rachel Herman as the Director of Human Resources.
Second. Jerry's got the second. All right, do we have any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome, Rachel.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.